two-way tables. Our essential question, how can two-way tables be used to access data? So the first thing we need to do is go ahead and define what a two-way table is. So a two-way table that's our new definition today. Our two-way table is used to organize or compare two sets of data. Okay, so we're going to draw a column or a table. It's going to be a 4x4 table. So on your paper, let's go ahead and make it 4 lines long. And it's going to take up most of the page. Just like that. So a big rectangle that's 4 lines long. And we're going to split this in half. And then split it in half again on each section. So you have 4 sections. Okay. Let's go ahead and draw a line where all of the lines of the notebook paper are. Okay, so today's assignment, you're going to see charts that look similar to this. You're going to have some information. This first square isn't going to have anything in it. But then we're going to have some information here. So let's just call this info or information A. The second one is going to be our info B. So sometimes you would have like girls and boys. You could have two different types of cars. You could have cats and dogs, but 2 pieces of information. And then you're going to have 2 more pieces of information. Let's call it info 1 and info 2. All right, then we're going to have a totals column and a totals column here. Now we're going to go ahead and start looking at this table, and I'm going to show you how this works. So you're going to have some kind of values, numbers, in all of these squares or rectangles. And going left to right in info A, whatever is in this section and this section is going to be added up. So going this way in our chart, we're going to add these 2 boxes up, and it's going to be equal to the total in this last box. So same thing with the next row right here. We're going left to right. We're adding up these 2 columns, and it's going to be equal to what is left over in this box here. Okay. So it's going to give you the total amount of info A, the total amount of info B. But what's unique about two-way tables is you can also add up the info going down in the column. So info 1, let's say we had number of sports cars people drive. Going down this column, I can add up the number of girls that have those cars and boys that have those cars. I'm going to add it up, and it's going to equal the total going down this column. Same thing with info 2. It's going down the column. We can add these up, and it's going to be equal to the total in this bottom rectangle. So there's where you get your two-way table. So it's going left to right, and it's also going top to bottom. Another aspect that is unique about two-way tables is the totals themselves. If I take these 2 totals and I add them up going downward, it's going to give me the entire amount of people that were surveyed to get all of this information. Same thing going left to right. This way, if I add that up, it's going to give me the same total here. So even if you don't have all of the pieces to the table, you can figure out the totals by subtracting. So let's look at an example that I have here. It says that a survey asked if you could have a new vehicle, which would you want, a sports utility vehicle or an SUV or a sports car? So this is an example of a two-way table. We have males and females, and then we have the SUVs and the sports cars. So according to this chart, there are 21 males that have sports utility vehicles or SUVs, and there are 135 females. Then if I go over to the next column, the sports cars, there are 39 men who have sports cars and 45 females that have sports cars. But if you go all the way down, the total number of sports cars is 84. The total number of SUVs is 156. Then going across, they asked 60 males their opinions. They asked 100 in total of 180 females, for a total of 240 would be the number that they surveyed. So they asked 240 people, 60 of them were male, 180 would be female. So going back up to our notes, we're going to add one more thing in here. This last column, the pink that I highlighted, is going to be the total number surveyed. Okay, the total number surveyed is going to be that last column. So looking back at our example that I gave you, 240 people right here is what was surveyed. So we're going to continue looking at two-way tables. If you have your notes and printed it out, if you haven't, go ahead and pause the video and print it out, or at least view it so that you can see what we're working with here. So we're going to construct some two-way tables with two different examples. So the first one says 8th grade students surveyed on electronic devices that they own. It was found that 78 students own a cell phone. I'm going to go ahead and underline that. And 57 of those students own an iPod. There are 13 students that do not own a cell phone. So 13 students do not own a cell phone, but they own an iPod. And there are 9 students do not own either device. So we're going to create a table using the two categories from the situation. So step 2, we're going to use the values given to fill the table. Okay, so if you don't have a printer, you can write some of these things down in your notebook. All right, so the first thing we need to do is identify what is going to go in our values here and here. Okay, so we know that we have students that own a cell phone, students that do not own a cell phone, and then we have students that have an iPod versus not having an iPod. So our cell phone, let's put it here. This is our first set of data. They either have a cell phone or they do not, so no cell phone. We know the last one is always going to be our totals. And then the second piece of information we have is either they have an iPod or they have no iPod. So iPod and no iPod. And then we have our totals here. So now we can look back up at the situation and start filling in what we know already. Okay, so we underlined some things. It was found that 78 students own a cell phone. So 78 students. So that's the total amount of cell phones. So it's the total number of cell phones. So down here we're going to put 78 own a cell phone. 57 of those students, of the ones owning a cell phone, own an iPod. So that means they have a cell phone and an iPod. So 57 is going to go here. Okay, so we've done this one and we've done this one. Now there are 13 students that do not own a cell phone, but they own an iPod. So they have an iPod and no cell phone. So this is 13, goes here. So we've taken care of this one and this one. And there are 9 students that do not own either device. So they have no cell phone and no iPod. So they're going to go here in the table. So now we want to go ahead and fill in the rest of these totals. So I'm going to switch colors so we can do that. So to get my total number of iPod users, I'm going to add 57 plus 13 because I'm adding this going this direction. Okay, so 57 plus 3 would give me 60, plus 10 more gives me 70. So I know my total number of iPod users is 70. Now, to find out the rest of this, we have to use a little deductive reasoning here. We know, let's see what else we know. We know that the cell phone users, there's 57 with iPods and 78 total. So if we take 78 and we subtract 57 from it, it should give us our missing piece. So 78, we can do it over here, 78 minus 57, it's going to give us 21. So we have 21 people with a cell phone but no iPod. Now that gave us enough information that we can find out the total of no iPod users. So again, we're working this way. We're adding these up so we get a total of 30. Now that gave us enough information to find out the entire total amount of people surveyed. Because we know that our total iPod and no iPod, if we go downward, we can add these up and we can get 100 people were surveyed. And then our missing piece here, we can do it 2 different ways. We can add the 13 plus 9, or we can subtract the 78 from the 100. I'm going to go ahead and just add straight down because that makes it really easy for us. So we're adding. So we end up with 22. So now we have our entire chart filled out. So we're going to go ahead and do the next example. Our second example is a survey of students at a water park. It says the 8th grade class went to the town water park. Out of 65 students who went to the park, 17 rode the surf rider. There was a total of 46 students who went down the water slides, and 16 of those also rode the surf rider. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start plugging in this information. So we know that out of 65 students who went to the park, 17 rode surf rider. There was a total of 46 students who went down the water slides, and 16 of those also rode surf rider. So we need to figure out what we want to put in our example. Okay, so we have surf rider is the name of the water slide. So let's write that first. So we have surf rider and then no surf rider. And then we have some who rode water slides and some that rode no water slides. And then we have our totals and our totals. Okay. And I do want to mention, sometimes we won't put the totals in, but you'll just know that you can add that in to the chart. So let's fill in what we know already. So we know 65 people went to the water park, because out of 65 students who went to the water park, so there's 65 students total. So that's my absolute total I'm going to put in the bottom. 17 rode surf rider. So here's my surf rider. 17 of them rode surf rider. There were a total of 46 students who went down the water slides. So for water slides, there were 46 total students. 16 of those also rode surf rider. So 16 goes here. Now we can start filling in what we did not know from the information. Okay, so the easy one right here, we can see that right away from surf rider. 16 rode water slides and surf rider, but then only one, because 16 plus 1 is 17, road no water slide. Okay, so that one was an easy one. Now we can start filling in the other pieces. So we know that going left to right this way, we have to add these up to equal 46. So if we take 46 minus 16, it'll give us this information. So 46 minus 16 is 30. We can do the same thing with the totals down here. So we have 65 total and 17 total for Surfrider. So 65 minus 17. So 65 minus 17. Let's go ahead and borrow. And we get 48. So 48 students total did not ride Surfrider. Then we can work our way up. 48 minus 30 gives me 18. And then going left to right, 1 plus 18 gives me 19. So I can do all these steps. So again, my steps are to create a table, use the values given to fill in the table. So on today's homework, you're going to continue working in two-way tables and finish completing those.